Welcome to the Business Boom Podcast, powered by Boomtag Media. Each week, we are sitting down with growth-obsessed, dynamic entrepreneurs, marketing experts, and business owners who have cracked the code to explosive growth. I'm your host, Kendra Noel. Let's take things to the next level and spark your business into its boom era. Okay, we are live for episode 5 of the Business Boom Podcast. I'd like you all to welcome my guest, Matt Doud. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Kendra. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited for this session. I think it's going to
Me
be
too.
really valuable for anyone tuning in.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I would love to get started by just letting you introduce yourself and tell us about why you're so passionate about helping business owners.
Oh, yeah. Okay. A great question. I love that. So my name is Matt Doud. I'm in the Kansas City metro area. I'm the founder of FreeFlow CEO, where we're all about helping founders offload those the tiresome tasks and the operational details that tend to bog them down so they can stay focused on the work they love that really drives their business forward. And it's just so hard in entrepreneurship and small business to stay focused right on those top priorities. There's so many things that demand our attention and our time and our energy and effort and money and everything. And it's just like we get spread so thin that it just, I don't know, businesses have a hard time. I found, moving forward sometimes, right? It's just like there's just so much to attend to. So my passion for that is born out of really my own experience, obviously, but even from a young age. My dad was a business owner, and I like to say that my first education was a dinner table MBA, where he would
Nice.
come home, and we'd be sitting around, and he'd be like, "Here's what happened at the store today," and it was some issue between customers or employee had something come up, and he would ask us. He'd like, "Okay, here's the situation. I'm 12 years old or whatever, right?" And he'd be like, "What would you do in this situation?" The customer was complaining that they didn't get taken care of correctly, right? We didn't deliver what we said we were going to do, whatever. He's like, "What would you do?" And my sister and I would answer, and I'm not sure if he would. It wasn't about like getting the right answer. It was just to be involved in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But so I was always thinking about that from an early age, the internal function of a business, right? I saw that from the inside out. And then as I grew up, I started working in, he was a Toyota dealer. He was a car dealer.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's a multifaceted, it's actually kind of like two or three businesses in one, a dealership like that,
Hmm.
the way it's set up. So uh, anyway, it was just, I don't know, I was always kind of fascinated by the way things work internally and making things work better. Right. And then as I got out on my own into my career, I got into sales roles early on. And I found myself always being more interested in how things were working for the business I was a part of, as opposed to the thing I was trying to sell to the customer. So I kind of moved around a lot because I wasn't really the greatest salesperson. I was okay, but it just wasn't my passion, my focus to go out and sell a product. It was like, how do we make this whole thing operate better? And
Yeah.
eventually I got pulled into the startup world and entrepreneurship by a buddy of mine who was a mortgage advisor, and I was a financial advisor. And he had an idea for a software platform for his business that turned into a product for the market. And he got me involved to help out at first, but then it turned into where I invested in the company. It's kind of an advisor. And then it started to grow, and it needed someone to pay attention to the inner workings of the business because he was very focused on the product and,
Mm-hmm.
marketing and sales and everything growth. And so it really just made sense for me to come on board in an active role in that business, and start, to be the COO essentially. And that was, man, that was like 12, 13 years ago now. And so we grew that business. And then out of that, I began consulting and working with other founders to help them, just kind of do the same type of thing, help make sure their businesses are operating as well as they can, while they focus on growth and development.
Yeah. Well, what a cool way to get kind of thrown into the business world. You said you started out with like a dinner table MBA. That's like such a fun story.
Right.
I think we try to do that a little bit with my husband and I with our kids as well. Like always have them thinking about, hey, you may not want to be working for a corporation or for a boss your whole life. You know, at some point you may want to be your own
Right.
boss. So kind of starting to get them to think in that direction. So I love
Yeah,
that, your story.
that's
Okay.
cool. Yeah.
Well, can you tell us more about FreeFlow CEO and what you're currently doing, projects you're working on to help business owners?
Sure. Yeah. So I set out, we've been going about a year and a half officially in this capacity. I was consulting a little longer than that, maybe about 3 years now. But about a year and a half ago, I set out to create a brand and a business that was bigger than just me working, kind of self-employed, right? Um, and so, the first year of anything is a lot of trial and error and figuring stuff out. But over this past 6 months, around the beginning of this year, I did a little introspection. I was like, okay, where do we really want to focus? Like, what really motivates me? And the answer I came up with was that I love it when people come up to me and thank me or just tell me that they appreciate something I did that helped them get past an obstacle or move forward with something, right?
Hmm.
And so it's like creating movement is what I arrived at. We got to create movement. And so I began surveying people and just getting out more and talking to business owners more to find out their pain points and where they're really stuck. And this did a lot of things. But number one, it helped me get out of my own head where I was like overthinking what we were trying to do. And I just like having those conversations started to just kind of free up my thinking and get me out and about. Right. And then I started getting answers that were really valuable because then I knew where people were really actually stuck or where they needed help. And out of that process, I was able to create our core offer, which is our business accelerator. And I was trying to solve the problem of how do we create or how do we allow founders and small business owners to specialize in the work they're the best at, spend the time doing the things they most want to do, and offload these, operational tasks, these things that bog them down, but do so in a way that's they also have limited time and money, frankly,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, can't just go out and spend thousands of dollars to hire all these people or hire firms or whatever to do all this work. So how it's like I was trying to find the sweet spot, right, of creating a solution that was scalable for us to deliver and affordable for my clients to take part in, at least at an entry level, right? So that's where this our business accelerator came out of. So it's like a group coaching and consulting community that is a little bit of a mixture of DIY, do it yourself, DWY, right, where we do things with you, and then a little bit of a kind of a pinch of done for you as well, thrown in on top to kind of sweeten the pot and really make it valuable. So, yeah, so we have weekly office hours where people can come with really any problem they have in their business, especially if it's related to their tech stack, and
Hmm.
making things work in automation. But really, if it's involved with strategy or whatever, we can talk about any of those things. So the idea there is come with a problem, leave with a solution
Yeah.
in real time. And then also for our members currently, we offer an hour a month of done for you service as part of the accelerator. So you can they can come and hand off any task within some parameters, but pretty much any task that they want help with, something that's just been sitting on their to-do list for a long time, hasn't gotten
Mhm.
done. It's like maybe we can help do that for them. So that's the primary components. We also have a software platform that we enroll our members in that helps them, like, for automation, and there's some marketing components. It's kind of a CRM business ops hub, and a couple other things too. We have we have training content library and stuff like that. But we try to make
Mhm.
it, yeah, we try to really like produce movement at
Yeah.
in an affordable way.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I find that super helpful to have a group to talk to bounce ideas off of, and that kind of thing. I'd love it if we could dive into that a little bit and group
sure.
coaching and why you think that's important.
Yeah. Well, through that startup that I've been a part of for 12 years now, that's a software platform. So we were in the SaaS Academy for a few years, which is, if you're anybody in the software business
Mhm.
probably knows Dan Martell and SaaS Academy, but there was so much value in being part of a group, and it was on multiple layers. Excuse me. So one was obviously Dan himself, the founder, right? Very experienced business guy, tons of wisdom, really energetic and enthusiastic, but also like provides playbooks and just tangible value, right? So he was a good teacher and gave stuff you could really follow. Then he developed a group of coaches that worked with him in in their specialty areas. So marketing, sales, finance, tech, all these different things. So that you got value from those experts as well. And then there was the 500 plus founders who were part of the community where we got to act, just conversations with them at any time. And they're walking the same journey, right? We're all in the
Mhm.
same. So I just found so much value there. I've kind of used that as one of the models for this. It's like there's some expert advice or some people who've been there, and then there's just your peers and people who are going, on the same journey at the same time. You
Yeah.
can, right, ask questions, share best practices, connect offline, all that type of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. That's what we've been trying to do so far.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And I know that you guys have like a big tie-in with just helping business owners. Okay, so for growth of businesses using AI and automations. Like I think that
Yeah.
that is something obviously a lot of people are talking about right now, but could you
Yeah.
give a little bit of background on your thoughts about using AI and automations and how it can really help a business grow?
For sure. Yeah. It's such a vast subject. And
It is.
I mean, we're all kind of in there learning. So
Mhm.
our little tagline, one of our little catchphrases at FreeFlow CEO is eliminate, automate, delegate, right? And that is kind of the initial process that we take people through and provides a framework for what we're trying to do. So the eliminate, we could come back and talk about eliminate because there's a couple specifics there, but then automate, which what you're asking about, it's like what tasks can be done by software or technology now, right? And AI
Mhm.
is just getting smarter and smarter and more capable, but it has its limitations as well. So I think what it is figuring out the best uses for it where it can really provide value. Um, so I don't know, examples. It's great at creating some initial content, but you don't just want to like take what it's given you at face value and probably turn around and publish it, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
take what it gives you as a starting point and then build off it, and it can cut that work time down in half or maybe in a third, right? Something like
Yes.
that. Um, auto, AI and automation are sort of different sides of a similar coin, right? But I mean, automation is building sequential things in your CRM or in your software tech stack to make functions happen that you maybe had to do manually that now can just happen automatically. Great for lead follow up, for certain communications, right? For getting people in email sequences, or we're using automation now in our project management workflows. I don't know, but AI specifically, um, I don't know. I guess my best thought there, my best advice is just you got to get in and start playing around with it. You got to
Yeah.
start using it. Um, yeah, I don't know. Are you looking for specific examples? Because I could go into a couple. I mean, we started creating some website like functional tools in a platform called Lovable. You ever seen
Mhm.
Lovable? I
I
mean,
have
it's
not seen that
incredible.
one
Yeah,
specifically. No, I know I've been introduced to a lot of AI tools through your group coaching sessions. So,
yeah,
um, I think that they've been really valuable and like you said, sometimes you just have to dig in and play around with it a little bit and figure out where it's gonna really propel your business. So, are there
Right.
specific ones that you've found super helpful for business growth?
Well, yeah. So I think that, um, well, I was starting to talk about Lovable. That's great for like functionality, right? Because you can take something you had on a spreadsheet, maybe, or just an idea, and you start telling it what to do, and it'll build you an app, basically, like a website or an app. Um, for business growth, I think my favorite one right now is Opus Clip, right? Which is where you upload a video file, like we could take the recording from this, for example.
Mhm.
And probably people are pretty familiar with this one now, but you run it through there and you can, it'll create all this content for you, right? Like reels and shorts and that type of thing. Very consumable, viral style content that would have taken somebody hours to produce, in the past. And now it's just like knocking it out in seconds, really,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
minutes.
it's
And then you
really
go in
amazing.
and tweak it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I usually end up having to make some corrections to it, like, I do something similar with Captivate and, the recorded sessions and
Yeah.
breaking it into pieces and shorts and that kinda thing. A lot of times I have to make some changes, do some editing of my own, but it's really cool at just, like, grabbing the attention-getting parts of a session
Yeah.
and, turning that into a short clip that you can repurpose. So there's lots of repurposing potential with things like Opus Clip.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
so something I stole directly from Dan Martell is the 10-80-10 principle, where if you're the leader, you want to do the first 10% and the last 10%, but then get help with the middle 80. Okay, that's like your team, or now software and AI in particular can do a lot of that 80%. So if you tell it what you need to do, it'll produce an output, but then you definitely want to go back in and do that last 10% where you really make it perfect,
Yeah.
right? Really
Yeah,
make
so
it
you're
good.
doing the final touches and making sure
Yeah,
it's true to your brand and true to your business and all of
exactly.
those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But it fits in so nicely with that, and that's such a useful, I mean, that's the third of our little triad of eliminate, automate, delegate is the third one,
Mhm.
right? So handoff work that you don't absolutely have to do yourself. But yeah, AI is kind of like having an employee on your team who works tirelessly, basically.
Yeah. One of the, AIs that you did introduce me to that I have used a few times is Gamma.
Hmm.
That one's kinda fun as well.
Yep. Yeah, you get yourself a nice slide deck or a website.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's all based off prompting now, right? Well, I mean, you can input a text file, but it's like you kind of just tell it what you're thinking and it starts to produce. That's
Yeah.
cool about the AI.
Right, and I can't remember if Gamma comes up with the content for you to put on the slides or if you have to feed it the prompt of what the content is that you're wanting in the slides.
I think you can do it either way, actually,
That's
without
what
having
I
it pulled up
was
in front of me.
thinking, but I couldn't
Yeah,
remember for
there's
sure.
several ways to input it. You can like copy and paste stuff that you want, or you can do it more of prompt style where I want you, something along these lines with this feel or whatever, and
Mhm.
let it kind of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I see in the comments we have people joining from all over. We even have one from Canada today, so that's
Nice.
awesome, and happy Canada Day. Um, Also, like, if anyone joining live has questions, if you wanna go ahead and put that in the chat, we'll have a chance to address those questions a little bit later on. Um, so, okay, the eliminate, automate, delegate, let's go into that a little bit deeper because I know
Yep.
when we were promoting and talking about this episode, we wanted to really highlight how that can help business owners take a lot of stress off their plate. So
Yep.
let's dive into that.
Yeah. I think the eliminate phase, I was also thinking about this the last couple of days leading up to this, to this show. You could also use evaluate in there, right? But it's like, let's take a look at one tool I use with clients, kind of at the front end of engagements is a not to do list. which is where it's like write down everything you do, but pay special attention to the things that you have to do that you'd rather not do,
Mm-hmm.
or those things that you need to do but aren't getting done. They're just on your to-do list forever, right? And so it creates pressure, right? Because it's just hanging
Yeah.
out over there and it's not getting done, it's not going away. Or it's the type of thing where you sit down to do it and you do it, but you just wish that somebody else could be doing it, right? Or that you didn't have to do it at all. So the whole eliminate slash evaluate phase is huge, because it's like, why are we, let's ask the question, why?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this task actually vital? Does it need to happen? That's the first big question, right? So then if the answer is, well, no, maybe it can just eliminate, like fully, like eviscerate, and just be gone.
Like it doesn't even need to be done in the
Mhm.
first place. Not
Yeah,
that you need to hand it off or rethink it. It's
exactly.
just something that you're doing that's not providing any value at
Yeah,
all.
yeah. It's just become routine or habit or whatever, and like it can just go away. That's beautiful when that happens. Maybe
Yeah.
that's rare. Okay. So then from there you go, okay, well, now we got these other things that I really don't want to be doing, or they're not the best use of my time, like my skill
Mhm.
set, my sweet spot, but they are important. They need to get done. So then we're going to eliminate them off of my to-do list and get them somewhere else. Right.
Yeah.
The other piece of the eliminate is also, when we're doing this not to-do list time audit, is what are the 2 or 3 things that I should be focused on? Because you don't wanna just, like, clear space and have a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
Let's get really clear on what is my superpower? What is the 1 or 2, 3 things that really only I can do as the founder and visionary and leader you know, of this venture, right?
Mhm.
And, um the full focus planning system has really helped clarify this idea. But it's like, you want to put your most important, highest priority, highest value things at the top of your list and not let them get pushed down by these urgent, you know, boring, operational tasks, the stuff that gets in the way. Right. So
Yeah.
keeping that clearly at the top in front of us helps us shoot for it. And then so then you have this separation, right? You have my 2 or 3 priorities, and then you have this not to do list. Okay, now how do we deal with the not to dos? Well, automate's the next thing, right? Because number one is most cost effective. If I can use a software and pay, you know, a couple $100 a month or maybe less, and have software handle it, that's fantastic. If AI can do it, that's amazing, right? So we get into automation. And then from there, of course, not everything can be automated or should be automated. So
Mhm.
then it's like, the question is, who can I have help do this? It could be set up for a VA, it could be somebody on your team internally. It could be something like, the FreeFlow CEO accelerator, for example, where be able to get some help from the group or from us to hand off tasks. But um, it flows pretty nicely once you have that clarity at the front end, right? That eliminate,
Mhm.
evaluate step. It's important to just step back and do that periodically, at least, I would say quarterly, but maybe even more often than that.
Yeah. We just had a comment come in that I wanna highlight real quick. It's from Ryan, and he said, "That's funny, God's been talking to me about cutting things out, and it's freeing up my time for focused initiatives."
Yeah,
I
perfect.
think that's kinda what you're getting at, right?
Yep,
Like, it,
totally.
I think at one point you shared some, like, the time value that's attached to those tasks, right? Or like the
Mhm.
cost. It's actually maybe costing you more to like be hanging on to these activities that are on your not to do list.
Yeah, that's part of that tool that we use. Actually, we assign monetary value to it and hours. So we get kind of tactical with it. So a lot of this, I got to admit, I've borrowed from people like Dan Martell. But effective hourly rate is the revenue of your business divided by the number of hours that you as the founder are working per year. Okay, so you know, round numbers. If you're making, it's kind of hard to do this without the visual, but If you're doing $300,000 a year in revenue and you're working 2,000 hours per year, that's a 40 hours a week for 50 weeks, kind of a good round number. That I believe is like $150 hourly rate. And then if you go down your not to do list and it's like you're doing payroll or bookkeeping or just whatever, data management and stuff that you would pay somebody $25 an hour to do, it
Hmm.
shows you very clearly in this tool that you're paying yourself $150 an hour to do something you could be paying somebody else $25 an hour to do, and you're losing out on all of that additional revenue, right? You're just
Right.
way overpaying for that job. It becomes this sharp contrast, and it can be a little bit of a slap in the face, but it's very helpful.
Right. I'm
Yeah,
sure seeing that and getting the monetary value for it helps people make that decision. But I know that there's a lot of business owners, I've been there myself, where it's just like so hard to let go of the tasks because you want to have touch points on all
yeah,
of the things going on in your business. So, what advice do you have for business owners who have hit that point where they can't continue to do everything themselves? It's not really sustainable to
yeah,
stay in that realm, but they're having trouble delegating it or offloading it to someone else.
yeah. It's a great one. I'm going to go a little deep on you here, okay? I
Okay.
think that this issue is at its root an identity issue and this is one thing I love about entrepreneurship and working with founders, is that we put ourselves into our work, right? And so if we have come up with a product or service that the market has responded to, it's not just the thing that we're doing, it's us, like it's us giving of ourselves, right? And so when you start thinking about automating, delegating, it's like no one else is going to do it just the way that I do it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it can be very hard to let go. It's kind of like watching your kid grow up, and sending them off to college or whatever. It can be very challenging emotionally, sort of spiritually, right? To be okay with 80% quality from a team member or a contractor or what AI is going to produce when you've been the one doing it and, 100% with 100% quality, like you get it exactly perfect, right?
Mhm.
Or you get as close as you can. But does that make sense? So I think the reason why it's difficult to do that is, yes, there are practical reasons too, like time and money and that kind of thing, right? Not everybody, we don't
Mhm.
have unlimited funds, but you think you mentioned it, is a little bit of a leap of faith to say, if this is going to grow beyond me, I have to let go of some things. And I think it just helps to be aware of the fact that one of the reasons that's challenging is because of how closely tied you are to it, as a person. Like it's a personal, deep connection. Once you're aware of that, I think it at least makes it a little bit easier to recognize and be like, okay, deep breath. Let's hand this off to a team member, and we'll coach them. Remember 10-80-10. It's not 10-90 and you never touch it again. You still get to come in on the back end and make sure it's up to your standard.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point.
You know,
I can see how that would help someone let go a little bit with that principle, knowing that they're the
yeah,
one who starts the initiative. They can hand it off to someone else, but before it gets seen by clients or before it's posted on the internet or whatever the case may be, they have the chance to look at it again on the tail end.
exactly. Yeah. And we've seen that with clients that we're working with, right? It's like it is a perfect little sweet spot. It's kind of that mix. It's like I want to let things go, but I'm afraid of what's going to happen. But also I don't have time to do everything. So how do I do both?
Mhm.
And that's kind of
Yeah,
the way to do both.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you for that advice.
Yeah.
All right. Um, let's see. Did we hit all of the principles in your three-part system? Is there anything else you'd like to go into as far as that goes?
Well, yeah, yeah. So I think, and the kind of general concept is that in this process, automating and delegating are skills of their own. So another challenge, what I tend to do is I find what I feel like are subtle and sort of hidden challenges or obstacles that we're not always totally aware of. So you might think that an obstacle is I've got too much to do and I need to delegate. So if I just had
Mhm.
somebody to delegate to, that would solve the problem.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily solve the problem, and maybe some of your listeners can relate to this, because there's an intermediate step of knowing how to delegate something to someone, or how to build an automation, or how to create a process that's automatable, if that's a word,
Yeah.
right? And so the way I imagine it in my mind is, as a founder, I've got my little operation over here, and it's on one side of this big, huge ravine, right? But we're over here, we're secure on our, on our plateau, working across the ravine. I look over there and I can see, like in my mind's eye, I can see this fully built out like a city, that's functioning with lots of moving parts and lots of people and lots of systems and that type of thing. But there's still this gap between where I'm at now and that vision of the future. Okay. And so what do we need to get across? Of course, we need a bridge. The bridge is building a bridge is its own skill, right? Like, how do I create systems that I can even build and delegate to somebody else to operate? Or how do I go in and build automations that will function and function correctly and that type of thing?
Mhm.
And so my advice there is, if you don't want to become a bridge builder and you just want to grow, like stay focused on what you do, is you need to find a way to get some help with that piece of it. And at the same time, don't beat yourself up for not just being able to delegate or not just being able to automate. Does that make sense? Because it's harder. Like, once you get
Mhm.
into it and start to try to do it, that in and of itself is more challenging than it looks.
Yeah. So for startup businesses or businesses just growing to the point where they're, can't do it anymore, what are the easiest things for them to automate?
Well, so I would say, like, your communication, right? Like, if you're not using a CRM, excuse me, got a little. If you're not using a CRM, or you have one and you're not really utilizing it, which is most, I would say most people, right?
Right. Yeah, there's a
Um,
lot to those platforms for sure. They have a lot of capability that I think
yeah,
people only touch a portion of most of the time.
exactly. Yep. So that's one of the best places to start, right? Because you're like, if you're generating lead flow, for example, but not following up with those leads and not nurturing them, and not keeping them, helping them understand who you are and what you offer, then you're not going to convert most people on that first time basis. So you're spending all this money or time, energy, effort to generate lead flow, but you're really not getting your ROI out of it if you don't have a system in place to maximize it. Well, automation is spectacular for that. And that's maybe one of the easier ones to set up, right? Because CRMs are designed for that, and they'll have their own training. YouTube will be full of people who are experts in that platform, right?
Mhm.
Um, there's lots of ways to get help with that without having to necessarily hire somebody, or not, maybe hire, like, buy a course or a coaching program or something like that. So it's a pretty low barrier to entry way to get automation going. Um, I think another one is in your workflow management, project management or workflow. So we've started using Monday.com, just because it's very intuitive, and that's where we track the work that we're actually doing. And there's a lot of automation you can build right within that. And again, it's pretty simple to use. Um, there's lots of those kind of platforms, right? Trello and ClickUp and all of that sort of thing. Those
Yes.
are good places
Uh-huh.
to start, just looking for efficiency. And again, we focus on efficiency, but the idea is to free up the founder to get back to doing the growth oriented work,
Mhm.
right?
The thing that they're passionate about,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing you wake up in the morning wanting to do, when you're doing it, it's productive, that it grows your business, that it helps people. right? It generates revenue, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the CRM automations, um, what exactly are you having it automate when you said in regards to leads, like reminders to follow up with people who have shown interest? Or what are the biggest things that people miss out with those kind of platforms that could really generate some growth?
For sure. Yeah, I think that whoever's in charge of sales, essentially, you need to have some reminders in there for just to reach back out to the person, right? So
Mhm.
you get a lead that comes in and you might interact with them once. Well, you want something in there set for like a couple of days or a week later, just to say touch base, touch in, touch point, reach out, connect with this person again to see where they're at. If they're not sold already, right? Which is going to be probably 9 out of 10 at least, right? Um, but on top of that, so that's a reminder for the person. That would be a form of automation. But then you can also have your email campaign or a text message campaign set up so that they're getting other messages as well, that you don't have to do anything. It's just going to go out, right? Tomorrow
Mhm.
they're going to get a follow up. In a couple more days, they're going to get another, you know, just another touch point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's for the hot lead. Like then right now they raise their hand, they're interested. You want to stay pretty connected with them, at least for, you're going to know your cycle, but the next week or two, just to see if you can get them to convert. If they don't convert, well, I guess either if they do or don't, then you want to get them into your long-term nurture, right? This is all like, this stuff's fairly, this has been around for a while, this kind of stuff, but it's amazing how often it's still not getting done.
Yeah. Yes,
Right?
I can
Like, it's
see
not
that
brand
just being
new
on the back
info.
end of, like, marketing for customers and stuff where,
Yeah,
like, they haven't sent an email in 6 months, even though they have a CRM
exactly.
that has all the capabilities for automation and campaigns and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely, like, not new news, but I think sometimes it's good for the reminder.
Yeah, it's like there's not a lot new under the sun. I mean, with AI and stuff, there is some new stuff under the sun, but in general, like business ops and business practices, it's like it's not really changing that much. It's just a matter of, is it getting done? And is it getting done with like without a huge Herculean effort required, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, lead nurture and follow up's a big deal. I think that even after the transaction, nurture and follow up's important because your own customers are your best next customers.
Yeah.
But then the other thing would be kind of back to that project management. If you're using, even if you're just using a spreadsheet, unless you're really good at those, you're not really building automations in. But how often does this happen, right? Ask yourself this. You get out of a meeting with your team and you've talked about all these great ideas and here's what we're going to do. But do you know which ideas you're really going to execute? Who owns that thing and when are they going to have it done by, right? Or when are they going
Mhm.
to have at least the next phase finished? Well, these work management platforms like Monday, they automate that quite a bit. You can set things up for when the thing comes in, like the item comes in, it gets assigned to the right person, it gets a deadline, right? It just becomes actionable instead of just theoretical and like floating around, never to be seen or heard from again.
Yeah. That's a really good point, and I think, most of them give, like, a progress bar on the item too, so you'll know for
Yeah,
whoever that's been assigned to kinda where they're at, or if they get stuck, they can say, "Hey, I need help to move this any further." So, I can definitely
exactly.
see where that would add a lot of value to a growing business.
Yep. Yep. I've created a cool one of my favorite more recent automations is, so I'm using Fathom as a note taker for, Zoom meetings and Google Meet.
Mhm.
And then what it does is it creates action items just from our conversation, right? Or I can tab like bookmark things as we go and say, create an action item out of this. So at the end, you have this summary transcript and you have this list of action items, which I then have running through Zapier, which probably most people are familiar with Zapier, but that's, an integration tool that connects softwares that aren't already connected to each other. So my Fathom notes and action items get sent through Zapier to Monday, where they go into my inbox of to-dos. And I just, after each meeting or at the end of each day, I go through and just really quickly, I'm like, okay, this was for this client, this was for this group, this was for this project. I assign, I move the tasks to where they need to be. And then a lot of times they'll automatically just get assigned to the right person based on where they get moved. Or if they need to, I can assign them. But in a matter of minutes, all of that conversation we've just had has turned into an actionable list, right? And
Yeah.
assigned to a person.
And you
And
can
like,
actually delegate from there, right? If it's
yeah.
not all on your to-do list, it
Oh,
gives
it's
you the
all being
option to
delegated.
delegate.
Yeah, exactly. In my role in our business, I'm trying to not take on tasks as much as
Mhm.
possible, except for the task of managing the flow of work and getting it to the right people, right? And then kind of overseeing it from there.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where you're trying to get your clients to kinda have the same,
Yep.
overview type thinking, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we're kind of training them along as we go because we can get them in the same platform and, we're all using the same system together.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or if they're using their own system, it's fine. We're still giving them the tools of how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, um, before we go, do you have any cool plans for the 4th of July? It's coming up
I
this week.
do. Oh yeah, actually I do. My family and I, so my wife and we have 3 kids, 12, 4, and 2, almost 5 and 2. We're hopping in the van tonight actually and heading west, going from Kansas City out towards Colorado. So we're going partway tonight. And we're going to be spending the next week in the Denver area and then up in the mountains a little bit. So we're excited about that.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Last year, we were in Colorado, Denver for the 4th of July, and we went to the Rockies game on the 4th, and they
Yeah.
have, like, a really cool fireworks display at the end of the
Right.
game, so we got to do that last year. I think our 4th of July this year is gonna be a little bit more low key.
Nice. That's so cool. I love that ballpark. It's one of my favorite ones. And I've been there this time of year also in the past, and their fireworks are, yeah, hard to beat actually. Pretty sweet.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I don't know if we'll
that
catch
was
that
a
this time or not, but yeah.
very cool. Well, hopefully you'll get to watch a fireworks show somewhere
We'll
from
see
where
one
you
somewhere,
are.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yep.
Well, any final thoughts?
Um, I don't know. I appreciate being on the show and getting a chance to talk about this stuff. I want to encourage people that more than ever now, there are ways, especially if you're a solopreneur or, a founder and work with a small team and just you feel stretched thin,
Mhm.
there are ways to get help that's not going to break the bank, right? And, there's a learning curve with everything, but there's some pretty simple ways to streamline your business. I would like for people to think of FreeFlow CEO and think of me as a resource. So if you're one of these people who's in this position, like reach out and let's chat. I'm always happy to have a conversation. And
Yeah.
we're also with our community, we do a 14-day free trial where people can come to office hours. We'll do a roadmap for you and kind of do that initial like onboarding conversation, and let people get familiar with who we are and what we do and how we work
Mhm.
and the service that we provide. So if that's of interest to anybody, happy to connect.
Yeah, could you please share with the audience how they would get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is just go to our website. It's freeflowceo.ai. You can also look up Free Flow Nation on Facebook and join our group. We'll find you on there. But yeah, right on the website on freeflowceo.ai, you can book a discovery call right from the website and we can chat.
Okay.
No,
And was
no.
there, any kinda special offer or a link to anything that we wanted to share today? I forgot to ask you before we started our chat.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have a link to the accelerator group. Um, let's see. So we typically do 14 days free, and that onboarding process is like we'll kind of do that not to do list. So if that particular thing is of interest, We'll get you into our onboarding flow and do the first part of it for free before you have to make any commitment, right? So we'll help you build out your not to do list, and we'll give you a little bit of a roadmap of where we, from our perspective, think you could go, whether you do it on your own or whether you do it with us, but like how you would proceed to kind of unload yourself of the burdensome stuff, right? And get streamlined and get focused on the things that you do best. We'll just help you create a roadmap for that, and then, go from there.
Awesome. Looks like Jeff in the comments has dropped your website link, so that is where
Beautiful.
people can access it, and then it's gonna be in the show notes of the podcast as well. So thanks, Jeff, for doing that. And,
Nailed it. Yeah, that's perfect.
I also wanted to say that not to-do list, it sounds funny, like, when you first told the group about it, I was like, "That sounds like a really funny practice, something to do." But it's really powerful, and it's, like, kinda, like, made me laugh when I heard it, but then the more I started thinking about it, I'm like, "Yeah, there's plenty that goes on in the business that I'd rather not do if I really had a
Right.
choice." And then there's getting to that point where you feel like you have a choice, right? Because I think we all start at that, like, if I had a choice, yeah, I'd rather not do that. But
Yep.
you can feel stuck a little bit, so getting over that hump and being able
Yeah.
to, like, delegate.
Sometimes it's just mental, right? It's like permission to do it. And you don't
Mhm.
have to own every last little bit of everything, you know?
Yeah.
It's like stuff will get done and people will help. People are happy to help, you know? But yeah, take a step forward, just try it.
Mhm.
Try letting somebody else, help you out and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to mention for the Business Boom podcast listeners, if you want a mid-year marketing checklist, I've set that up on my website. If you go to boomtagmedia.com, there will be a pop-up. You can fill out real quick with just some information, your email address, and then I will send you the mid-year marketing checklist, because I think I have a new year, a mid-year, and a November marketing checklist. So since we just hit July 1st, I think it's a really great time to remind people that it needs to be looked at. Like, right, you have all this marketing stuff set up potentially. If you've already got a website, you're already doing social media, you don't really think about marketing a lot, but those 3 times a year, I find it super important to just, like, go back through, look at things again, so you can get this checklist, and it'll just kind of remind you of some things that should be top of mind, especially this time of year. And if anything's lagging, you're falling behind in any area, mid-year is a great time to just get on top of that. So that's at boomtagmedia.com. Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate you being on the show today and just giving
Yeah.
out your advice. I think it's going to be so helpful for so many people.
Thanks, Kendra. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Always love talking to you. And thanks for having me on.
Thank you. That's it for this week's Business Boom podcast. You've got the spark. Now go light up your business with what you have learned. If you like what you heard today, hit that subscribe button, drop us a review, or tell a fellow entrepreneur about the show. Keep pushing, keep growing, and catch us next week for more booming business strategies.